Hey guys, tonight we follow glowing paw prints, sip dream wine with gods, and try not to get vaporized by divine side eyes, because you've just been invited to the most infamous celestial bash in all of ancient Egyptian mythology, the night Bastet threw a party for the moon. There's music in the air already. You can smell the sweet incense and taste the promise of honey-drenched dates. But don't let the soft feline purr lull you just yet, because you're stepping into a gathering where time wobbles, gods bicker, and reality takes the night off. You'll meet divine DJ cats, looping time drummers, and a goddess who can charm a crocodile and terrify a sunbeam. And yes, you probably won't survive this if you question Bastet's fashion choices. Pro tip, don't. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your city and local time in the comments so I know who I'm partying with tonight. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You wake with a start, not from a nightmare, but from the softest pressure at your feet. Something's there. You peek out of the covers. It's a cat, not your cat. Not any regular cat. This one's sleek and black as obsidian, with earrings that shimmer like little crescent moons. It gazes at you with lamp-like yellow eyes and, with an almost human sigh, drops a scroll tied in a gold ribbon onto your chest. The seal? A perfect paw print, impressed into wax that glows faintly blue. It reads, "Open quote, by order of the Lady Bastet, protector, joy giver, and occasional scratcher of naughty kings. You are cordially summoned to a moon celebration. Festivities commence at midnight. Don't be late." Close quote. And just like that, the cat jumps off the bed, padding toward your window, which is somehow already wide open. You barely have time to throw on your sandals before you're climbing out after it, heart pounding with that strange mix of excitement and mild dread. You know, like the feeling before a school presentation, but with potential divine consequences. Outside, the night is too beautiful to be real. The sky is velvet black, draped with stars that shimmer like gold flakes. The moon is so full and so bright it casts silver shadows that dance over the buildings like ghosts with places to be. You're standing in a narrow alley, but it's not your alley. Stone walls rise on either side, smooth and ancient, carved with hieroglyphs you can almost read. Papyrus plants rustle from somewhere behind a wall, and the air smells of warm fig, sandalwood, and river mist. The cat is waiting. It stretches languidly, then begins walking, its paw steps leaving behind glowing prints on the flagstones, prints that pulse faintly before fading like the trail of a dream. You follow. Not that you have a choice. Something about this night is tugging you forward, gently but firmly, like being pulled into a memory you never made. As you move, the city shifts. Shadows stretch. The walls seem to breathe. You pass silent markets lit by flickering oil lamps, and figures in linen robes move silently through arches. You hear laughter in the distance, soft, musical, and definitely not human. Then suddenly, a gust of warm wind swirls around you, lifting your hair and dusting you in what smells suspiciously like cinnamon and myrrh. When it fades, you're no longer in the alley. You're standing at the top of a staircase carved from pale, moon-kissed stone. Below you, a courtyard lit by floating lanterns shaped like lilies, swaying to some unheard beat. You've arrived at the Temple of Bastet, and the party is already underway. You descend the stairs slowly, catching glimpses of movement through sheer curtains, the flash of gold bracelets, the spin of indigo robes, and more cats, dozens of them, lounging on velvet cushions or weaving through the legs of beings that are not all human. Your guide cat meows once and disappears through a slit in a beaded curtain. You hesitate at the threshold. Behind you, the night is quiet. Ahead, music, laughter, the smell of roasted almonds and honeyed wine. So naturally, you do the only logical thing. You take a deep breath and step into the dream. Inside, the air is thick with incense smoke and magic. The ceiling stretches up into darkness, but the stars are somehow visible through it, twinkling as if the temple roof has dissolved. The pillars are carved with scenes of Bastet in her many forms: lioness, house cat, dancer, protector. You walk among the guests, unsure where to look. A baboon in a gold-embroidered vest is discussing moral philosophy with a goose who's clearly had too much wine. A crocodile in sunglasses, yes, sunglasses, is snacking on lotus chips by the fountain. Two sphinxes are slow dancing under a beam of moonlight. You're not even going to pretend to understand the social hierarchy here. New arrival, someone calls. A tall woman in a linen gown that shifts color with every step sweeps toward you. She's got feline grace, a smile like she knows everything, and eyes rimmed in thick kohl. A golden pendant shaped like a sun hangs over her heart, but her ears, furry and twitching, betray her true form. This is Bastet. Welcome, little moon guest, she purrs. We've been waiting. She circles you once, then flicks your nose playfully. Don't worry, first-timers usually survive. A beat, then she grins wider. Kidding. Mostly. Historians still argue whether Bastet began solely as a war goddess or always had a joyful side. What's less debated is how beloved she became as the bringer of music, fertility, and celebration. Tonight, she's in her element. Come, she says, twining her arm with yours. The moon's late, but we'll start without her. You don't ask how the moon can be a person. That's a question for later. Right now, you're being led deeper into the temple, toward the beating heart of the party, and you're already glowing just a little under the moonlight that hasn't even arrived. The floor beneath your feet hums like it's absorbing the rhythm of the room, and you're not entirely sure if you're walking or floating. Bastet leads you past a pair of harp-playing jackals and through a curtain of hanging silver beads that feels suspiciously like being licked by static electricity. Inside, the Great Hall. It's round, immense, and it shouldn't fit inside the temple, which looked maybe the size of a generous two-bedroom apartment from the outside. But here it is, bigger than a stadium, smaller than the sky, lit by floating lotus lanterns in the cool gleam of moonlight, which still hasn't arrived. At the center of the room is a raised platform of white marble, surrounded by couches and silk pillows that look aggressively nap-worthy. You notice right away that the chairs are not all the same size. Some are normal human size, sure. Others are enormous, like for hippos, lions, or deities who really enjoy reclining in drama. Bastet gestures toward the center like a game show host. This is the circle of invitation, she purrs. If your name is called, you dance, or debate, or recite a dream you had while napping under a pomegranate tree. We're not strict. You glance around and realize the gods and guests are watching, politely, casually, but watching, and then someone is called. Sekhmet, says Bastet smoothly. You're up. A ripple runs through the room like someone dropped a pebble in divine soup. You spot her at once, tall, powerful, wrapped in crimson linen like blood-made fabric, eyes glowing amber like coals. The lion-headed goddess rises slowly, stretches, and prowls into the circle. The air gets warmer, thicker, like it's bracing for something. She opens her mouth, and the room is suddenly full of roaring. Not just sound, heat, war, fire. You taste ash on your tongue and feel your heart trying to jog out of your chest. Then she stops, smiles, bows, and sits. The crowd exhales, some applauding softly, others fanning themselves with golden fans shaped like bird wings. You wipe your forehead and pretend you didn't almost faint. Bastet leans in. She's mellowed, she whispers. Back in the old days, she'd have turned the carpets into lava. Growth, you know? You laugh a little too hard. Bastet grins wider. Now someone else takes the floor, a moon-faced man in robes of navy silk that glimmer like the Milky Way. He doesn't speak. He just plucks a stringed instrument shaped like a crescent, and it sends shimmering notes spinning across the room, forming constellations above your heads. One forms a cat, another a boat, a third becomes you. That's unsettling. You look away just in time to see Thoth, yep, ibis-headed scribe god himself, scribbling something frantically into a scroll while sipping what looks suspiciously like spiced cocoa. He catches you staring and winks. Don't worry, Bastet murmurs. He just records everything. He's been journaling since before papyrus was invented. You file that under things I can't process right now. Historians still argue whether the ancient Egyptians genuinely believed their gods were constantly among them or simply representations of natural forces. But as the party rolls on, you get the eerie feeling that belief wasn't the important part. Participation was. There's food now. Platters piled with sweet dates, spiced lentils, tiny pastries shaped like scarabs. A tray drifts by of its own accord and politely hovers near your shoulder. You grab something round, chewy, and possibly illegal in several dimensions. Made from moonberries, says Bastet. Those are real? Only tonight. A few more guests take turns in the circle. A goddess with wings for arms performs a dizzying aerial dance. A crocodile-headed man sings a lullaby in a voice so deep it makes your teeth itch. Someone recites the recipe for divine hummus in rhymed couplets, and they get a standing ovation. You lean back against a pillow and let the music soak in. The party is dreamlike, loud but soothing, wild but perfectly choreographed. You notice for the first time there's no sense of time here, no clocks, no countdowns, just rhythms, moods, pulses. I don't even know what time it is, you murmur. It's moon o'clock, Bastet says. And that's when the moon arrives. You don't see her walk in. One moment she isn't there. The next, she is. She doesn't glow so much as shine inwardly, like a lantern lit from within. Her skin is a pale silver blue puff. Her robes shimmer with starlight, and her hair spills out behind her like mist. She doesn't speak, doesn't need to. Every head turns, every voice quiets. Even the cats sit up straighter. The moon walks to the center of the room and nods to Bastet. The cat goddess claps her hands, and suddenly the room is filled with soft, vibrating chimes. You feel them in your chest like a slow heartbeat. The lanterns dim. 1,000 tiny mirrors descend from above, catching the moonlight and reflecting it in pinpricks across every surface. The dance begins. It's not just movement, it's story. The moon spins through battles, births, droughts, kisses, eclipses. She shows you fields growing fat with barley and deserts swallowing rivers. She shows lovers parting and reuniting over 1,000 lifetimes. She shows cats curled in sunbeams and one little girl whispering wishes to the sky. She shows you, alone, dreaming, being called. The dance ends and the room holds its breath. Then wild applause. The moon bows once and steps back. Bastet catches your eye. She's not usually that generous. You must be good luck. You want to answer, but a feeling rises in your chest like a wave, a mix of awe, joy, and that delicate panic of realizing nothing will ever quite be the same after tonight, which is exactly when the music shifts again. And Bastet's ears twitch. She rises slowly. Her smile falters for the first time. Well, she says, voice now low and curious, that wasn't on the playlist. You hear it too now. A distant metallic clang, one note echoing, and something ancient is stirring outside. You freeze. Everyone does. Even the moon pauses, her silver feet barely brushing the floor. The sound that echoes again, a long, drawn-out clang, isn't part of any musical tradition you've ever heard. It doesn't belong to harp or sistrum or the soft bells of dancing bracelets. No, this sounds heavy, like something old just woke up and bumped its head on the sky. You glance sideways at Bastet. Her expression has shifted, still feline, still elegant, but sharp now, alert, as if some ancient instinct in her bones just twitched. Stay here, she says, which is exactly what people say when they know you absolutely won't. She slips away like a shadow, tail flicking behind her. Around you, the mood in the hall begins to thin. Guests whisper, gods frown. A few mythological musicians quietly start packing up instruments. And you do the thing every curious protagonist does. You follow. You dodge between a group of minor river spirits, arguing over who stole the last date tart, and sneak out through the same silver-beaded curtain Bastet passed through. But this time, the hallway feels different. The temperature has dropped. The floor feels slightly tilted, like the temple's foundations are shifting beneath its stone skin. Another clang. Closer. You move faster now, down a corridor lit only by strips of moonlight filtering through cracks in the sandstone. On one wall, you spot hieroglyphs dancing softly, yes, moving, telling a new story as you pass. A full moon, a golden gate, a broken lock. You round a corner and see Bastet standing very still. Before her is a door, a large one you are certain was not there before. It's shaped like a crescent, covered in carvings of cats, lotuses, and stars. But right in the center is something jarringly out of place, a rusted lock the size of your head. Bastet is staring at it like it personally offended her. You're not supposed to be awake, she whispers. You almost ask who she's talking to until you hear the third clang. This time it comes from behind the door, and something answers. A low, grating growl that vibrates in your chest and makes your teeth feel loose. Okay, you say, attempting humor because panic is just fear in a party hat. So that's normal, right? Bit of ambiance? Bastet doesn't laugh. She doesn't even blink. There are things, she says very softly, we locked away a long time ago. Some because they were dangerous. Some because they were lonely. Some because they refuse to obey the music. You stare at her. Which kind is this? We don't know, she replies. That's the problem. A small pause. Then in a voice lower still, it might be the moon's old twin. Your brain short circuits for a second. Wait, she had a twin? Had, or maybe has, says Bastet. Historians still argue whether the myths about the lost lunar sibling were metaphorical or literal. Personally, I never liked metaphors. You lean in, whispering. And if this is the sibling, then this is not a party anymore. Another growl. The lock rattles. You and Bastet look at each other. Then, without asking permission, she places a paw hand on your shoulder and gently nudges you back toward the hall. We'll need the others, she says, and maybe some honey cakes, or a flute made of stardust, or both. You follow her back down the corridor, your head spinning with questions. Behind you, the door pulses slightly, like it's breathing. Back in the great hall, things are already shifting. The moon is seated again, her light dimmer now. The guests are murmuring. The harpists have vanished. Bastet climbs onto a small platform and claps once. The sound rings out like a whip crack. All heads turn. My lovely immortals and beautiful mortals, she says. It appears we've got a situation. Polite silence. Anubis folds his arms. Thoth stops scribbling. There's a door, she continues, one that shouldn't be open or awake or visible. A collective inhale. One goddess mutters, not again. Bastet nods. I need volunteers, brave, foolish, curious types. Before you know what's happening, she's pointing at you. You blink. What did I do? You followed me, she says. That qualifies you for either bravery or foolishness. She points next at Anubis. He nods gravely. Of course. Then at a young god you hadn't noticed before. Tall, sharp-eyed, carrying a curved blade that glows faintly with lunar light. This is Khonsu, Bastet says. God of the moon and sometimes of madness. You raise your eyebrows. Reassuring. He knows the moon's hidden faces, she replies. We'll need him if this is what I think it is. Thoth steps forward too. I'll come. I've got notes and snacks. You always have snacks, Bastet mutters, then smiles. With your little team assembled, you begin your trek back to the crescent door. Khonsu hums softly to himself, something eerie and beautiful that sounds like a lullaby sung backward. Anubis says nothing, but you notice he's gripping his scepter a little tighter. I'm just here for the moonberries, you joke weakly. But Bastet gives you a look. No one ever just comes for the moonberries. You're here because something called to you. You want to argue, say it was curiosity, not destiny. But deep down you know the truth. You felt something the moment that door clanged, and now you're walking toward it, willingly. The hallway feels different this time. You'd swear the stone beneath your feet is humming, just the tiniest vibration, like some massive music box just wound itself up below the earth. Ahead, the crescent door glows faintly now, its carving shimmering with something like starlight filtered through smoke. The rusted lock still hangs stubbornly in the center, and the air smells charged, like ozone, like rain on the moon if that were a thing. Thoth squints at it and mutters, definitely shouldn't be doing that. You glance sideways. You mean glowing? I mean existing. The others form a semicircle around the door. Anubis crouches low, sniffing the base. Khonsu paces with that too-wide grin that tells you he's either planning something brilliant or about to lick the door just to see what happens. You wouldn't put it past him. So, you ask, how exactly do we deal with this? Bastet steps forward, tail twitching. We knock. She raises a single clawed finger and taps once on the ancient metal. A long silence follows. Then, click. The lock unlatches, not falls, not breaks, just opens, as though it was never truly locked, just waiting for the right knock. Behind you, Thoth exhales. Well, that's probably fine. The door creaks open a sliver. Cold air slithers out, colder than night in the desert, colder than a pharaoh's tomb. It smells faintly of jasmine and something else, something metallic and sad. Inside, darkness stretches on like a hallway of stars. You feel it before you see it, a soft tug in your belly like the moon herself is trying to pull you forward. Bastet turns. No one enters unless they're willing to be changed. Changed how, you ask? She just smiles. We don't know. That's the best part. You roll your eyes and step inside. At first, the world is nothing but black and silver specks. You float, or maybe walk. Hard to tell. Gravity's on vacation. Beside you, the gods move silently, their forms haloed in strange moonlight. The floor appears under you slowly, a silver glass path winding between floating memories. Yes, memories, because the air is thick with them. Flash images flicker all around, felines dancing atop temple roofs, priests singing beneath eclipses, children laughing beside sacred pools. Then a darker image, a chained figure curled into a ball, weeping starlight. Khonsu hisses. I knew it. Bastet doesn't look surprised. She's awake. You glance around. Who's she? The other moon, Bastet says, voice soft. The one they don't sing about, the one who refused the dance. Thoth flips a page in his scroll. Some say the moon had a twin, a sister, bright as silver, wild as night. But while one obeyed the rhythm of the cosmos, the other wanted her own beat, refused to turn with the tides. Historians still argue whether she was real or just an allegory, Khonsu adds. I say she was real, and she was fabulous. She was chaos, mutters Anubis, unbalanced, dangerous. Creative, counters Bastet. Lonely, adds Thoth. You're still wrapping your mind around it. So this party wasn't just for fun? Bastet shakes her head. Parties never are. She leads you deeper. The hallway pulses now like a heartbeat. Each step draws you closer to the center, to her. You don't know what you'll find. A goddess, a ghost, a mirror. The path ends in a circular chamber glowing with soft blue light. And there she is, floating, not standing, floating. A woman wrapped in veils of midnight, her hair a storm of stars. Her eyes are shut, but her lips move, singing a tune too ancient to remember, too new to understand. She doesn't open her eyes, but she speaks. You brought music. Her voice is wind across dunes, a lullaby sung to a sick planet. Bastet bows. We brought the truth. The moon sister opens her eyes. Silver fire burns there. I've missed the dance, she whispers, but I remember the silence. You step forward. Why were you locked away? She looks at you for a long time. Because I wanted the party to last forever. Khonsu nods solemnly. Mood. She drifts down, feet brushing the floor for the first time in ages. But eternity isn't fun. Not without rhythm. Not without change. Suddenly, you understand. She wasn't banished for breaking rules. She was banished for refusing to grow, for wanting the joy to stay static, for fearing the ending. You say softly, the moon waxes and wanes. She smiles. I remember now. Bastet steps forward, offering her hand. Then come. The music's changed, but it's still beautiful. There's a long pause. Then, with a shiver of stardust, the moon sister takes her hand. And just like that, the chamber begins to dissolve. Back through the hall of memories, back through the floating path you all walk, gods and ghosts, myths and mortals, until the crescent door stands before you once more. The sister pauses, looks at the carvings. They painted me as a monster. No, says Bastet gently, just as a forgotten chorus. The sister reaches up and erases the lock. Not breaks it, not destroys it, just dissolves it with a touch. The door shimmers and disappears. In its place, moonlight, real moonlight, streaming in through a gap in the temple's roof where there was none before. And when you step into the great hall again, the music resumes. The guests are dancing. The moon, both moons are laughing. And somewhere far away you hear a beat pick up. A new rhythm, one no one's heard before. A rhythm that might just be yours. The dance floors never look so alive. You blink under the sudden rush of light and color, moonlight flooding in from the broken roof above, twirling in perfect sync with the drums below. For the first time all night, Bastet's party feels like a celebration and not a prelude to chaos. Guests whirl like petals in the wind. Jackal-headed nobles clink gold goblets. Lion-headed priestesses sway in hypnotic arcs. And even Sekhmet, usually a pillar of fury, seems to grin as she headbutts a wine barrel clean open. Good party, you murmur. Khonsu nods beside you, his head still tilted upward toward the sky. Balance always brings the best beat. You glance around, trying to make sense of the shifting energy. That undercurrent of tension from earlier? Gone. It's like someone finally adjusted the record that was stuck on repeat. Or maybe, just maybe, someone rejoined the song. The moon sister floats near the edge of the dance floor now, her feet barely brushing the polished stone. She doesn't dance. Not yet. But you can see it in the tilt of her head, the rhythm in her breath. She's remembering, rejoining. Bastet slips beside her, a goblet of something smoky and sparkling in one hand. Ready to toast? The sister accepts it carefully, eyes shimmering with something deeper than joy, relief, maybe. To endings, she says softly. Bastet clinks goblets. And to starting again. You're still watching when Anubis plucks a kithara off a passed-out musician. His fingers, bony and black, move with unexpected grace across the strings. The melody he conjures isn't joyful or sad. It's both. A song with layers, like a staircase made of sound. I didn't know you played, you say. Anubis shrugs. You keep a few hobbies when you deal with dead people all day. The tune drifts across the party, and it's like the room inhales together, sinking breath, sinking pulse. And then from somewhere behind the stage, a sneeze. Everyone turns. A short, bandaged figure pokes his head out from under a table, rubbing his nose. Oh, Bastet says, you made it. The mummy waddles forward, trailing ancient linen and dust. Sorry I'm late, overslept. 400 years. You blink, Bastet grins. Party crasher, used to be a scribe, got cursed. Long story. The mummy waves cheerily. I brought hummus. No one questions it. A table clears, a bowl appears, and before you know it, a full-on moonlit feast has emerged from somewhere. Figs, honey cakes, roasted goose, olives so plump they practically wink at you. You find yourself a seat beside Thoth, who's writing even while chewing. Taking notes? Always, he says, mouth full of date. A moment passes. You glance toward the moon sister again. She's humming now, eyes closed, swaying just slightly. She remembers more each minute, Thoth says quietly. But memories are like wine, too fast and they sour. She seems okay. She is. But don't mistake stillness for peace. Sometimes gods stand still so they don't fall apart. His words hang in the air a moment too long. Then Bastet plops beside you, dropping a heavy platter of honey cakes. You will eat these, she commands, or I'll put you in charge of the next eclipse. Khonsu slides over, mouth full. That's not a real punishment. I like the last one. Because you caused it, Anubis mutters. I maintain it was an accident. The sun screamed. Bastet cuts in. Focus, everyone. We have a guest of honor and a moon to unhaunt. You wipe your hands on a napkin shaped like a lotus. Unhaunt? The goddess shrugs. She was locked away so long, she forgot how to feel. It's not just her we're reviving. It's the music she made. Thoth nods. Some say there was once a rhythm only she knew. Played beneath temples, hummed by cats, carved into limestone. Historians still argue whether it was music or just strange wind patterns, Khonsu chimes in. But I say it was a groove. You smile. So you're trying to bring it back. We're inviting it back, Bastet corrects. You don't command a beat like that. You tempt it. A gong rings out, sharp, silver, and sudden. Everyone freezes. In the center of the floor, the moon sister raises her arms. The goblet she held shatters in midair, glittering down like stardust. And then the drums begin. Not the ones you've heard already. These are older, deeper. Each beat sinks into your ribs, your breath sinking without your permission. Even the gods grow still. From the shadows behind her, instruments appear. Flutes shaped like reeds, drums stretched with strange shimmering skin, sistrums that rattle like laughter caught in a bottle. Figures move toward her, faceless but not formless, dancers made of moonlight and sand. You feel yourself rise. Not from choice, from instinct. Your feet just know where to go. You're not alone. The entire hall joins her rhythm. Guests swaying, clapping, laughing, weeping. No one leads. No one lags. It's not about performance. It's about memory. And slowly, piece by piece, you sense it. This is the music that once guided tides. This is the song cats purred in their sleep beneath pyramids. This is what the moon sounded like when she first spun into being. The sister's voice joins the sound. Not words, just tone. Her veil peels away like mist, revealing a face not young or old, but full of time. Laughter lines carved from orbit, eyes too wide for earth. And for one impossible second, she looks right at you. And you remember. Not your name, not your home, but something deeper. The curve of stars over sand, the cold press of stone beneath your cheek. The drumbeat of a heart that has never stopped since the world began. Then the moment breaks. She exhales. The instruments vanish, the dancers dissolve, and the party miraculously keeps going. But now it feels right, as though every sound tonight had been tuning up for this one sacred song. And you were meant to hear it. You're still standing there, heart thudding in rhythm with drums that have already stopped, when a warm paw taps your shoulder. You okay? Bastet asks, voice low. You nod, but you don't really mean it. Because how are you supposed to explain what just happened? That for a few blinks of moonlight, you were inside something ancient and infinite, like the Nile dreaming of stars, or a temple singing in its sleep. I felt, You start, but trail off. Yeah, she says, as if she already knows. That's how she used to make all of Egypt feel. The moon sister now sits quietly in a circle of pillows, sipping from a fresh goblet. Gods and demigods have formed a kind of gentle orbit around her, talking in softer voices like worshippers at a shrine. No one's saying anything about what just happened, but everyone knows it wasn't just a dance. Anubis appears at your elbow. She unlocked it. Unlocked what? He taps his forehead. Memory, that part of us that still knows how to listen. Across the hall, Khonsu throws his arms around a dancing ibis. Did you see that? He bellows. The sky blinked. Thoth calmly detaches the ibis from Khonsu and ushers it back toward the bar. You mutter to Bastet, this whole thing started as a party. She snorts. Parties are just rituals with worse planning and better snacks. You glance again at the moon sister, who now laughs, a full, rich sound that rolls like honey across marble. Even the statues seem to lean in. And it hits you. This isn't just a celebration. It's a return. Once long ago, the moon sister ruled more than phases. She ruled feeling. Before scribes set laws, before gods drew borders in the sand, she was the pulse in every heart. And when she vanished, the beat faltered. Historians still argue whether her exile was self-imposed or a cosmic accident. Some even say she was forgotten, slowly and cruelly, as her name faded from temple chants and incense smoke. But now she's remembered. And remember what Thoth said? Don't mistake stillness for peace. You're starting to see the truth in that. Because beneath her calm now is something stirring, like a tide that's just been given permission to rise again. You've always been here, Bastet whispers, watching the sister. What, her? She nods. In lullabies, in the pause before laughter, even in heartbreak. Especially there. You sit down cross-legged on the floor, unable to stand any longer. The air's too heavy with meaning, or maybe too light. Nearby, a crocodile-headed god starts juggling tiny pyramids. Everyone cheers, and just like that, the room shifts again, playful, absurd, joyfully chaotic. She wanted this, Bastet says, gesturing wide. Noise, music, messy feelings, the stuff that makes immortality bearable. And it's here, in this ridiculous moment, while Sobek nearly decapitates himself with a pyramid, that you realize what the moon sister really lost. It wasn't her place in the sky. It was her place in the party. Because even gods need to be remembered with joy, not just as stories carved in limestone, but as the punchlines of ancient jokes, the rhythm in temple footsteps, the sparkle in wine spilled at midnight. Come on, Bastet says, pulling you to your feet. There's still a lot of moon left. She drags you onto the dance floor again. The music's changed. It's looser now, with flutes that giggle and drums that trip over their own beat. It sounds like kids playing too late after curfew. You really think she's back for good? You ask between twirls. Bastet considers. She's back as long as we remember this feeling. Doesn't mean she won't wander again. She's a moon. That's what they do. You laugh. And somewhere in the crowd, the mummy from earlier trips over a bowl of olives. Hummus flies. A sphinx ducks just in time. Cheers erupt. Above you, the sky is clearing. The clouds peel back like curtains, revealing a full, glowing moon that seems closer than usual. Watching. You wave up at her, just in case. Khonsu appears out of nowhere, arms full of sparklers. Fire hazard, Anubis mutters, stepping away. Light hazard, Khonsu corrects. Huge difference. You catch a sparkler and wave it slowly, painting silver spirals in the air. Others follow. Soon the whole room is filled with glitter trails, laughter, someone yelling about catnip cocktails. You lose sight of the moon sister for a while, until suddenly she's beside you again, close enough that you can see the galaxies swimming in her pupils. Thank you, she says. For what? For listening. You want to say you didn't do anything, that you just showed up, but you remember that look she gave you during the dance. And maybe, just maybe, your heartbeat was part of the rhythm she needed. You shrug. Anytime. She leans in, placing something cool and small in your hand. A coin, smooth as pearl, carved with a crescent. What's this? A reminder, she says, for next time you forget that joy is sacred. And with that, she drifts back toward the center of the celebration. Dancing now, truly dancing, her veil floating behind like a comet's tail. Bastet sidles up again. Well, that went better than expected. You raise an eyebrow. What were you expecting? Moon tantrums, cosmic lightning, cats exploding. Wait, cats can explode? Don't tempt them. She clinks a goblet against yours. To the moon sister. To joy, you reply. To both, she grins. The music swells, the lights blur, and for a few perfect moments, everything, every god, every star, every slightly burnt honeycake spins in sync. The party isn't over. It's just hitting its stride. It's well past what mortals would consider midnight, but time flows differently among gods. You're not even sure if hours are passing, or if the party itself has bent time into a swirly loop of music, light, and moonlight-soaked chaos. Bastet has stolen a tambourine from a minor harvest spirit and is leading a parade of deities through the banquet hall. Thoth trails behind, scribbling notes with the intensity of someone who's either composing scripture or raiding the canapes. You're perched now on the edge of a sandstone bench beside a shallow, reflecting pool, one of those ornamental ones that somehow shimmers with constellations instead of water. A soft breeze curls through the arches, carrying the scent of frankincense, roasted figs, and whatever that strange green paste was you accidentally mistook for guacamole. Spoiler, it wasn't. You dip your fingers into the pool, expecting cool water. Instead, it feels like memory, the kind you can't quite name but still makes your chest ache in a sweet, confusing way. Bastet had warned you earlier. The Moon Sister doesn't just show herself. She wakes up the places you've hidden her. From the far end of the hall, a ripple of laughter breaks out. Someone's put a golden crown on a hippopotamus and declared her queen of snacks. Towerit, the goddess of childbirth and hippo energy, is absolutely glowing. You're about to rejoin the madness when Anubis plops down next to you, his dog-headed silhouette tired but satisfied. He's still clutching his ever-present scepter, but he's ditched the formal posture. Tonight, he's just a guy who officiated a lunar resurrection and could really use a mint. Having fun? He asks, voice scratchy like the wind over desert stones. Define fun, you reply, because what even is this? He chuckles. It's what happens when gods stop pretending they aren't lonely. That hits hard, because now that you think about it, so many of them are lonely, immortal, powerful, worshipped, yes, but also ancient and aching for connection. Kind of like that one uncle who shows up at reunions with stories about the 1970s and a tendency to dance alone near the fruit punch. Historians still argue, Anubis says, almost absently, whether Bastet threw this party to honor the Moon Sister or to remind us we still have each other. Can it be both? He nods. Everything sacred usually is. A flicker of motion catches your eye across the pool. There, standing barefoot on the edge of the water, is the Moon Sister again. But this time she isn't surrounded by crowds or music. She's alone, face tilted toward the real moon outside the temple's open ceiling. Her expression is unreadable, reverent maybe, or weary, or simply present. She looks like she belongs here, you whisper. She always did, Anubis replies, but that's not the same as feeling welcome. There it is again, that ache in your chest, like something ancient that was buried deep in your ribs is slowly stretching awake. You ever wonder what gods miss the most? He asks. You think about it. The temples, the sacrifices, the power? No, he says, reading your silence. They miss being known, not feared, not obeyed, just seen. Behind you, a group of lesser spirits is reenacting a battle scene using dates as weapons. Ra himself walks by holding a platter of deviled eggs with tiny suns carved into them. No one's being worshipped right now. They're being together, and that's so much rarer. You rise, drawn toward the Moon Sister again. She doesn't move as you approach, just continues staring upward, as if the sky is whispering things only she can hear. Beautiful, isn't it? She says softly, not turning. You glance up. The stars are unnaturally clear, the kind of clarity you only get from dreams or very high mountaintops. They don't twinkle, they pulse, like heartbeats. What are you thinking about, you ask? She smiles faintly. All the things we lose when we stop dancing. You want to ask what she means, but her hand finds yours before you can. She leads you away from the pool, back toward the heart of the celebration, where Bastet is now doing the limbo beneath a floating papyrus scroll. And then something different happens. The room dims, not with shadow, but with attention. All eyes, all presence seem to turn toward the Moon Sister. No announcement, no gesture, just a collective shift, like a hush between verses. She lifts her arms, and the moon itself moves. Not literally, probably. But the light changes. It concentrates, pouring through the open ceiling like silver wine. And beneath that beam, she begins to sing. No words, no melody you can name, just sound that moves through your skin like silk dipped in fire. The kind of music you feel in your bones. Around her, the gods go still, not out of obedience, but out of awe. Even Sobek pauses mid-juggle. Kansu removes his moon-shaped sunglasses. Bastet presses a hand to her heart. It's not a performance, it's an offering. To memory, to joy, to the dance that keeps time turning. You close your eyes, letting it wash over you. The music seems to stir images in your mind. Glimpses of ancient Egypt lit by oil lamps, the Nile glinting with moonlight, children chasing cats through temple courtyards, lovers whispering beneath palm trees. All of it bathed in that same silvery glow. The song ends. The room holds its breath. And then, applause. Wild, thunderous, delighted applause. The Moon Sister laughs and bows. Okay, she says, now it's a party. Music kicks up again. Bastet throws a handful of flower petals in the air. Anubis toasts with a cup of something purple and questionably glowing. And you start dancing. Because joy is sacred. Because memory matters. Because gods don't just want temples, they want you. You're not sure when your feet started moving again. Maybe it was the Moon Sister's song, or maybe Bastet slipped something extra into your drink, something divine and slightly fizzy. Either way, you're back on the marbled floor, knees bending, arms flailing with what you'll generously call enthusiasm, and others might call interpretive distress. The party is now in full tilt. Bastet, eyes glowing like twin fireflies, spins in circles while juggling crescent-shaped pastries. Sekhmet, the lion-headed goddess of war, is headbanging near a column, clearly enjoying the heavier beats. A monkey god has taken over DJ duties, remixing ancient temple hymns with a surprisingly modern bass drop. Someone summoned a disco ball, out of obsidian. And over it all, the Moon Sister glides like a soft breeze at midnight, sometimes dancing, sometimes just watching, her gaze drifting like stardust across her divine siblings. You catch her eye once, she smiles. It's like catching a falling star in your chest. Then suddenly she claps once, just once, and the room shifts. It's not a jarring shift, more like a gentle turn in a dream. The music slows, the lights, if you can call them that, dim to a sleepy shimmer, and a long, low hum fills the hall like the earth itself is exhaling. Bastet raises a paw, hand, and calls out, "All right, moon lovers. Time for stories." There's a stampede toward the fire circle, Bastet's conjured from thin air. It's not made of logs or coals, but threads of light and laughter, woven into a cozy glow. You snag a spot between Thoth and a napping ibis, and brace yourself for some grade-A divine storytelling. The Moon Sister steps into the circle, her silver robes rustling like wind through papyrus reeds. "Let's talk," she says, "about the one time Ra got stuck in a clay pot." There's a collective gasp, and you swear you hear Osiris whisper, "Oh no, she's telling that one?" She is. And it's glorious. You learn that even solar gods can be tricked, that clay pots have surprisingly good sound insulation, and that Bastet once led a rescue operation involving 12 cats, a lute, and a very persuasive crocodile. The gods laugh until their immortal ribs ache. And you laugh so hard you almost drop your cup of honey-sweet fig juice. Then it's Thoth's turn. He tells a story about the invention of writing, which somehow involves a beetle, 3 goats, and a very dramatic sunset. Historians still argue, he says smugly, whether I meant for it to be symbolic or if I just tripped. You can't tell if he's joking. Neither can anyone else, which makes it funnier. Every tale weaves a little more moonlight into the air. You feel it curling around you like a dream you don't want to wake from. And while the stories are wild and hilarious and filled with God-level chaos, there's something else beneath them, something quieter. Connection. Even the most powerful beings in the cosmos need to remember who they are. They need to laugh about that time they turned into animals, or grumble about temple renovations, or share embarrassing memories involving pharaohs who asked too many questions. You sip your drink, now strangely tasting like dates and sea salt, and lean your head against a nearby lion statue. It purrs. You're too relaxed to question that. Bastet leans over and whispers, "Want to know a secret?" You nod, because of course you do. She grins. These stories, they're how we remember who we used to be, and who we still are. The Moon Sister hears this and raises her cup in salute. To remembering, she says, and to forgetting when we need it. That strikes you. Because sometimes forgetting is mercy. Not all stories are easy. Not all memories are welcome. And yet, in this place, with this light, even the hard things feel softer, bearable, held. As the stories wind down, a hush settles once more. Not the heavy hush of endings, but the gentle quiet of contentment. You notice a few gods drifting toward the periphery of the hall. Not to leave, but to rest, to watch, to just be. You stretch out, too, and look up through the temple's open ceiling. The moon hangs above like a sentinel, calm, knowing, utterly unbothered. And below it, you feel smaller and safer than you have in ages. Then, because Bastet is Bastet, she breaks the peace by popping a firecracker made of papyrus and stardust. A few gods yelp. One cat dives under a table, and Bastet just grins, sipping her wine like she's done absolutely nothing wrong. "All right, folks," she calls. "Time for the moonlight relay." You blink. The what now? Suddenly you're handed something. It looks like a glowing baton, but when you touch it, your whole body buzzes with cool, lunar energy. "Pass it," says Bastet, "but do it creatively." And just like that, the party morphs again. A relay begins, not of speed, but of imagination. Each god takes the baton and adds something, a dance, a trick, a tiny story, a joke that makes the moon itself chuckle behind a passing cloud. When it reaches you, your heart skips. Everyone's watching. Even the ibis has woken up. You don't know what you'll do until your hands move. You mime the moon rising from the Nile, arms stretching, head tilting like you've seen the moon sister do. You pretend to cradle stars, to pour light like water. When you're done, it's quiet. Then Bastet applauds. So does Anubis. And finally, the moon sister nods once. You pass the baton. Not just literally, but symbolically. You've joined the story now. You've been seen. Open quote, open quote. You settle back again, the glow of the moon baton still humming in your fingertips. Around you, the gods buzz with sleepy joy, like children who've run too long in the sun and don't want to admit they're tired. Bastet lounges across a velvet divan that didn't exist 2 minutes ago, licking honey from her thumb. "Not bad," she purrs in your direction. "I like your style. Awkward, sincere, just the right amount of dramatic elbow." You bow, or maybe you sway. It's hard to tell the difference anymore. Time stretches here like a cat in the sun, and you're starting to lose track of how long you've been awake, or dreaming, or possibly both. The moon sister rises again, not dramatically, just like fog lifting from the Nile. "Let's walk," she says. You do not say no to a goddess, especially one who looks like moonlight poured into a human shape. You follow her, barefoot now, across a floor that ripples with reflected constellations. With each step, the stars shift. You realize the floor isn't stone at all. It's a map of the night sky, vast and infinite and maybe sentient. It winks at you once. Rude. The moon sister walks slowly, deliberately. "You've heard a lot of stories tonight," she murmurs. "Let me tell you one more." You nod, matching her pace. Her voice is softer now, meant only for your ears. "There was once a time," she begins, "when Bastet threw a party for me, but I didn't come." You blink. "That's like saying sunrise forgot to show up." "I was hiding," she continues, "not just from the world, but from myself. I'd grown tired of watching, of being the background. I wanted to vanish." You glance at her, unsure how to respond. "It happens," she says with a wry smile. "Even to immortals, even to moons." She walks you past pillars etched with scenes of celebrations past, some joyous, some chaotic, one featuring a very confused goat riding a chariot made of lotus flowers. "Historians still argue," she says, "whether that goat was meant to represent joy or just bad planning." You stifle a laugh. "I didn't come to the party that night," she continues, "and Bastet didn't get mad. She lit candles anyway. She played music anyway. She told my favorite stories to the stars. Not because she needed me there, but because she wanted me to know I was missed." You pause at that. It sinks in. Sometimes love isn't loud declarations. Sometimes it's a party thrown for someone who might never arrive. "Ever since," she says, "I've made a point to show up, even when I feel dim, even when I feel cracked." You look at her face. There's no crack there, no flaw, but something in her gaze, soft, endless, tells you she means it. Then, just like that, the floor beneath your feet ripples again. You're not in a hallway anymore. You're on a boat. You definitely didn't get on a boat. But here you are, drifting along a calm, celestial river that reflects both the sky above and your thoughts within. The moon sister sits across from you, legs folded, holding a piece of bread that glows faintly blue. Night bark, she explains, classic Egyptian motif, used to transport gods' dreams and occasionally very lost souls. You wonder which category you fall under. Maybe all three. As you float, Bastet suddenly leaps onto the boat from nowhere, now scattering petals and shouting, "Snack break!" You jump. The Moon Sister doesn't even flinch. Bastet hands you a small bundle of dried figs and something that looks like glowing goat cheese. High in calcium, she says. Also, chaos. You bite. It's divine, literally. As the boat drifts on, you notice the constellations shifting overhead. Familiar ones. Orion. The Big Dipper. And wait, is that a cat playing a tambourine? Definitely not in your average star chart, the Moon Sister sighs. The night sky is a living archive. Everything we've ever done, felt, or dreamed, it's written there. You squint up. So, people can read it? Some, she says. Most just sleep beneath it and trust. You let that settle into your bones. There's something comforting about not needing to understand everything. Just floating. Listening. Eventually the boat docks. Again, you don't see how, but it does, at a small glowing platform shaped like a crescent moon. Bastet hops off and pirouettes dramatically. "Moon dance floor," she declares. "Come on, it's tradition." You glance at the Moon Sister. She nods once, and you follow. The dance is nothing fancy. No complicated moves, just a slow, swaying circle. Bastet hums. The Moon Sister glides. You move like a leaf caught in a tide, unsure of where you're going, but oddly okay with that. And as you dance, you feel something unspoken pulsing in the rhythm of the stars above. Joy, grief, belonging, loss, laughter, lightness, and shadow, all twirling together in perfect balance. Because that's what the moon is, isn't it? Always half in darkness, always half in light, but always whole. When the music fades, Bastet gives you a smirk and flicks a fig stem at your forehead. "Not bad for a mortal," she teases. You bow dramatically, nearly falling over. The Moon Sister smiles. "Come on," she says gently. "One more stop." And with that, the floor under your feet changes again. A shift so subtle, it's like a sigh. You're not on a boat anymore. You're somewhere deeper, somewhere quieter, somewhere very, very old. 10. The air shifts. You feel it before you see it. Thicker, older, cooler, like stepping into a tomb that remembers its own construction. There's no breeze here, just a stillness that hums in your ears. You take a breath. The scent is sandstone, myrrh, and something distant and metallic like the aftertaste of thunder. The Moon Sister steps forward, her feet silent on what appears to be polished obsidian. This place reflects no stars. It reflects you. 1,000 versions of yourself glance back from the floor, some weary, some curious, one with fig crumbs still on its chin. "This," she says softly, "is the moon's vault." You look around. No doors, no ceilings, just vastness wrapped in hush. Pillars rise into forever, each etched with symbols you don't recognize. Not just hieroglyphs, something older, curved and spiraled like shells, galaxies, and ancient lullabies. It's where Bastet keeps memories too fragile for daylight, the Moon Sister adds. Not secrets, just stories not yet ready to be told. You raise an eyebrow. "She has a vault you don't control?" She smirks. "Cats don't do well with supervision." A single spotlight, if you can even call it that, glows on a pedestal ahead. You walk toward it instinctively. Upon it lies a mask, feline, intricate, gold leaf cracked at the edges, eyes rimmed in lapis lazuli. Her first face, the Moon Sister says. Before the parties, before the laughter, when she was just fury. You hesitate, but she's the goddess of joy and protection. She nods. Now, but once, she was Sekhmet. You do know that name. Goddess of war, flame, blood, the one Ra unleashed on mankind when we got too clever for our own good. The lion-headed embodiment of rage. It's said she nearly wiped out humanity until Ra tricked her with beer dyed to look like blood. You glance back at the mask. It doesn't look violent. It looks tired. Historians still argue, the Moon Sister muses, whether Bastet and Sekhmet were truly separate beings or simply different moods of the same divine spirit. You step closer. The mask doesn't bite, but it watches. "She came here," the goddess continues, "when she needed to let go of that fury. And I held the door open. That surprises you. You two didn't get along, though." She smiles sadly. "Doesn't mean I couldn't hold space. You want to ask more, but something about this chamber whispers not to. Instead, you wander. Each pillar you pass reveals a fragment of memory. Bastet cradling a dying lion cub in the sands. Bastet stealing a crown from Set and wearing it sideways just to annoy him. Bastet curled in Ra's lap as he wept from the weight of the sun. You pass a column that shows her dancing under eclipses, laughing so hard her ribs shook the pyramids. You pass another showing her silent and still for 100 years. And yet another. Bastet standing nose to nose with Hathor, both furious, both crying, neither backing down. The caption beneath reads, roughly translated, "We both love the moon. We both forgot to say it aloud. The moon sister is quiet now," letting you take it in. Eventually, you find yourself drawn toward a small nook in the wall, where soft purring vibrates through the stone. Inside, curled like a cinnamon roll of celestial fluff, is a cat. A real cat. Just sleeping. You glance at the goddess. "Bastet?" She nods. She visits sometimes when her soul gets too loud. You crouch. The cat's ear twitches. You resist the urge to pet it. Instead, you sit beside her and whisper, "Thanks for the party." One golden eye cracks open, considers you, then closes again. "You're welcome," the moon sister murmurs, mimicking the cat's voice with uncanny precision. You stand. "It's time," she says. You hesitate. Time for what? But already the chamber dissolves around you. Not violently, not even quickly. It just exhales. And with that breath, you find yourself on sand again. Only now the party's over. The tables are gone. The lanterns have dimmed. Empty cups litter the dunes like forgotten dreams. A tambourine lies abandoned, half buried, next to a very confused goat wearing sunglasses. Bastet appears beside you, her expression unusually soft. "Was it too much?" You shake your head. "It was perfect." She nods. "I wanted the moon to feel loved." She did. She always does. She just forgets. A pause. "Don't we all?" You glance up at the sky. The moon is bright tonight, round and watching. "I should go," you say, though you're not sure where. Bastet touches your shoulder. "One last thing." She hands you a necklace. Simple, obsidian beads, cool to the touch. At the center hangs a crescent moon charm, etched with a cat curled inside. "For when you forget you're welcome." You swallow a lump in your throat. The goddess flicks your nose. "Go on now, dream something weird." The sands shift again. The moon tilts in the sky, and the story pulls you forward once more, quieter now, toward the final threads of the night. You're walking again, though this time it feels less like a journey and more like a memory on loop. The dunes roll gently beneath your feet, cool in the moonlight, and the horizon, if you can even call it that, just sort of wobbles. It's dream logic, and it doesn't have to make sense. Behind you, the party is truly gone. No sound, no scent of roasted figs or sandalwood, just a tattered trail of paw prints leading nowhere. Ahead, a throne. Small, ornate. Hovering above the sand like it's been invited to float. And on that throne, a goose. Yes, a goose. It's wearing a tiny golden pectoral collar, glinting with turquoise beads. Its expression is suspicious, like you might owe it 5 drachma from a bet you forgot. You look around. Nothing but stars. Then a familiar purr cuts through the silence. Bastet. Except this time she's fully feline. Housecat form. Sleek, black, tail twitching like a metronome tuned to chaos. She's judging you. Bastet says without moving her lips. "The goose?" "No, me. But she's also judging you. Geese are chaos incarnate." You fold your arms. "And this one's here because?" "Because she's sacred to Jeb," Bastet replies. "Earth god, father of snakes, frogs, and inconvenient detours." "Right. Of course." "And he wants a word." The goose honks. Loud, echoing. You suddenly know what your skeleton will sound like when it rattles itself out of your body in fright. You blink. The goose is gone. In its place stands a man with deep bark-colored skin, his shoulders wrapped in vines and dried river mud. His eyes are small, glowing, like tree sap catching the last rays of dusk. "Geb?" Bastet says with a bored yawn. He gets chatty when the moon's full. Geb regards you with the weight of someone who remembers the first mountain. Then, without a word, he crouches and places his palm flat on the sand. The dunes tremble. And then, like ink rising through parchment, a picture spreads beneath you. An image made of glittering black sand and pale dust. It shows Bastet and the moon sister dancing, yes, but beneath them, shadows, rows of them, lined up, watching, masked, silent. "Who are they?" you ask. "Dreamwalkers," Bastet says. "Past ones, future ones. Not all of them left a party with a necklace." You glance down at your crescent moon charm. "Why show me this?" you ask Geb. He finally speaks. His voice is ancient wind rustling reeds, because dreams are not gifts, they are contracts. Walk gently. Then he places something in your hand. It's a seed, small, unassuming, utterly unspectacular, and yet as you hold it, you feel a heartbeat in it. Not yours, not his. The seed remembers. What do I do with this? You whisper. You'll know when it's time, he replies, already beginning to fade. Bastet sits beside you, tail flicking. You're collecting a lot of souvenirs, huh? You pocket the seed. He said dreams are contracts. They are. And this one? She looks up at the moon. This one's just beginning. The sand shifts again, this time in spirals. You find yourself spinning, but not in fear, in laughter. Not yours. A child's. Familiar. Close. And then suddenly you're in a market. Ancient, bustling, but quiet, like someone hit the mute button on reality. No noise, just motion. Bastet strolls beside you in full goddess form now, half cat, half human, wholly regal. I brought you here because I want you to see something, she says. A memory I forgot to forget. You wind through stalls selling honeyed locusts, papyrus scrolls, bead necklaces that sparkle despite the shadowy silence. Every face here is blurred, like they were painted with smoke. Until you reach her. A girl. No older than 10, swinging her legs from a market counter, holding a clay figurine of a cat. Me, Bastet says. Sort of. The girl places the figurine down, bows her head, and whispers something you can't hear. She was praying, Bastet says. She didn't know who to. The girl raises her head, looks directly at you. Historians still argue, Bastet continues softly, whether our gods shaped the people or if the people shaped their gods. You meet the girl's eyes. She smiles. And just like that, poof, the market's gone. You're back in the sand. Bastet standing beside you, brushing a tear from her cheek. I don't usually cry, she says. Totally normal reaction, you say. Time's weird. So are geese. She laughs. You're not half bad, you know, you shrug. I'm 70% fig and 30% confusion at this point. The moon brightens overhead. Bastet looks up at it like it's the last lantern at a party she's not ready to leave. It's almost time for you to go, she says. You nod, a little heavy in the chest. There's one last stop, she says, already walking. You follow. The seed in your pocket warm now. The necklace thumping gently against your chest. Your feet not quite touching the sand anymore. You don't ask where you're going, you already know. The world tilts. You don't fall. You float. Or maybe you drift. Like a feather that forgot gravity was a thing. Bastet walks ahead of you, graceful as ever, her golden bangles clicking softly with each step. But the landscape shifts again, and this time it's not sand beneath your feet. It's glass. Endless, clear, gleaming under the moonlight. You're walking on a floor of stars, literally. Each step echoes as if across a polished obsidian mirror, but you can see the constellations moving below. Not a map, not painted, real stars, twinkling like they've got front row seats to the weirdest dream Egypt ever imagined. Bastet doesn't look down. Don't freak out. I'm already 1 foot into panic, you admit. It's fine. It's just the skyway. You blink. Like, sky? Walkway? Exactly, skyway. A path between dreams. Rarely used. Mostly by cat gods and questionable travelers like yourself. You glance down again, and there, streaking beneath the glass, is a comet shaped suspiciously like a banana. You don't ask. Some questions are better left unasked in dream space. Where are we headed? You murmur. To meet someone who doesn't usually take guests. You raise a brow. More ominous crypticness? Because I'm collecting that like ancient NFTs. Bastet smiles. You'll see. The stars below swirl and stretch, and suddenly the air tastes different. Metallic, like the inside of an old brass lamp. Your hair floats a little. No wind, but still a current. The glassway ends at an arch, carved from moonstone, laced with feathers. After you, Bastet says, stepping aside, you step through and find yourself inside a library. Not just any library, a cosmic spiraling upside-down library, books stacked in spinning columns, scrolls tucked inside shells. Pyramids made entirely of glowing tablets drift by, slow and steady like patient jellyfish. Oh, you whisper, this is very much my vibe. A soft chuckle echoes, and there she is, Sashat, the goddess of wisdom, scribes, and everything neatly indexed. She appears wearing robes stitched with star maps. A papyrus scroll unfurls from her palm midair. Ink writes itself in looping hieroglyphs. Her headdress sparkles, not with jewels, but actual readable constellations. Virgo blinks at you. You've come far, she says, voice calm, deep, like a librarian who can silence chaos with a stare. You nod, unsure whether to bow, curtsy, or recite your Dewey Decimal number. Sashat gestures to a nearby scroll. It floats to her, then slowly unrolls between you and Bastet. It's a timeline, your timeline. Moments glowing like fireflies, some small, laughing with a friend, picking up a coin. Others massive, times you felt fear, love, courage. You look at Bastet. She's been watching? Bastet shrugs. She's got access to the mainframe. Don't take it personally. Seshat's finger pauses over one moment, a tiny glimmer. Bastet's party, moonlight, music, laughter. She wants you to remember it, Bastet says. I do. No, Seshat murmurs, feel it. And suddenly you do. The warmth of the crowd, the ridiculous jokes from a sun god who wore socks with sandals, the moment you danced with a goddess who giggled like a child, the thrill of being chosen. For what? You still don't quite know, but chosen nonetheless. Why? You ask. Why me? Seshat pauses. Historians still argue, she says, whether the gods ever chose mortals, or whether mortals stumbled into legend by being present in the right dream. So I'm sleep lucky? That, Bastet says, or deeply cursed, still undecided. The scroll rewinds, closes, disappears. Seshat steps forward. In her hand a stylus. She presses it against your palm. It leaves no mark, but your hand tingles like knowledge trying to sneak into your bloodstream. You've been written in, she says softly. Now don't disappoint the footnotes. You look to Bastet, slightly panicked. I don't even have a bibliography. She winks. You will. Seshat nods once, then vanishes in a soft whisper of ink and starlight. The library begins to fold in on itself, like pages closing around a spine. Scrolls fly back to shelves, stars dim. The arch appears behind you again. No words this time. Just the sensation that you've been trusted with something ancient. You step through and find yourself back on the sand, the moon lower now, heavy, drowsy, Bastet sighs. One more thing, she says, before you wake up. Hit me, you whisper. Not literally, she says, raising an eyebrow. I want you to see where I came from. You pause. Didn't we already? She raises a hand. The sand parts. Beneath is a small temple, not grand, not royal, just sacred. Clay walls painted with faded cats. Offerings still resting untouched in little niches, bones, trinkets, dried flowers. This was my first altar, she says quietly, before the names, before the statues. You step inside. The air is thick with old prayers. Someone made this for you, you say. She did. Who? Bastet smiles. A girl who believed. That was enough. The moonlight streams in. Dust catches in it, dancing like tiny glowing moths. You sit beside her in the silence. The real kind. Then she says softly, you've walked far. I know. You've earned the ending. You close your eyes. Feel the weight of stars, the brush of sand, the warmth of the seed in your pocket, the pull of the moon like a lullaby. One more journey left. Just one. You wake, not quite, but something shifts. The desert fades, or maybe it folds in on itself like an origami sun. Bastet is gone. No grand farewell, no wisecrack about cosmic consequences, just poof. But in her place, Ra. Not just Ra the sun god, Ra the celestial furnace, a presence so bright your eyes water even closed. He dims himself for you mercifully, appearing as a tall, regal figure with a hawk's head and a sun disk blazing above like a golden halo caught in mid-explosion. You're not supposed to be here, he says. You blink. That's a strong opener. I mean it kindly, Ra rumbles, voice like a choir buried in sandstorms. You're not dead. You're not divine. You're not even particularly well hydrated. You glance down. Your sandals are filled with moon dust. I'm just here for the party. Ra's beak twitches. Maybe a smile? I've seen your name pass through time, he says, more gently now, carved in temporary places, scribbled in dreams. You offer a shrug. I'm trying to make it permanent. Ah, that's why Bastet picked you. There's a pause. I think, Ra adds, she likes chaos. You grin. That makes two of us. Ra gestures upward, and the stars rearrange, literally. The constellations swirl into a spiraling vortex, and there, hanging in the center of it all, is the moon. Still full, still glowing. But it's crying. A single tear, dripping silver, splashes into the void, and then a new moon blooms in its place. Wait, did the moon just give birth? Sort of, Ra says, catching your confusion. She needed renewal. All beings do, even celestial ones. The party wasn't just celebration, it was ritual. Laughter heals what silence cannot. You nod slowly. So she's okay, he says, but she left something with you. He holds out his hand. You instinctively reach into your pocket and pull out the seed. Still warm. Ra takes it, blows gently across its shell. It cracks. Out of it sprouts a tiny tree, a sapling of pure starlight. Its leaves shimmer like wet paint, gold, silver, violet. You can smell night on it. Dream bark, rooted in stories. Plant this, Ra says, somewhere real, in your world. Water it with memory. You open your mouth to argue or joke or deflect with sarcasm, but you don't. You just nod. Ra steps back. Historians still argue whether Ra was benevolent, distant, or terrifying, he says, but none dispute that he watches. You glance up. The sun disk above his head flares for a heartbeat, then shrinks into a coin-sized light, and then he's gone. You are alone. Except you're not. Behind you comes the patter, patter, patter of 1,000 tiny paws. You spin around and laugh. Cats, hundreds of them. Black ones, golden ones, calico spirals, and cats with earrings. Cats with god eyes. Cats made of light and shadow. All of them sit in silence watching you. Then, from the crowd emerges a single tiny kitten. It has one white paw and a crescent moon on its forehead. It trots up to you, rubs against your ankle, and purrs. Somewhere deep inside, you know, Bastet left it for you. You lean down. I guess this is it? The kitten meows once, then turns and walks away. You follow. The desert becomes a blur of light. You pass pillars of memory, clouds of dream ink, pyramids made of sleep. And then, you're in your bedroom, just like that. Sheets tangled, fan humming, soft glow of moonlight pouring in through the window. You sit up. There on your nightstand is the seed, still cracked, still glowing faintly. A note beside it, don't forget the party, love B. You smile, because of course Bastet left a handwritten note in loopy hieroglyphs that somehow read in English. You hold the seed close to your heart, and just before sleep reclaims you fully, you whisper, thank you. You wake again, or think you do, but this time the air feels syrupy, like a dream still hanging on, just barely. You're back in the same room, same fan, same soft moonlight, but something's off. Your fingers are still curled around the seed, only now it pulses. Once, twice, a third time, and with the third pulse you see it. A thread of light extending from the cracked seed, drifting toward the ceiling as if pointing the way. You don't hesitate, because at this point, hesitation is for people not personally invited to parties by deities. You follow the thread. It winds through the hallway like a lazy firefly. Downstairs. Past the fridge humming its nightly lullaby. Out the back door, which weirdly is already open. The backyard isn't your backyard anymore. It's a lush garden, but not just any garden. It's somewhere between ancient temple courtyard and magical orchard. Tall palm trees sway as if dancing to music you can't hear. Vines hang like whispering ropes. Flowers bloom in patterns that feel almost alphabetic. You step barefoot onto dew-kissed grass. The seed pulses again, then flies from your palm, slowly like it's swimming through moonlight, and plants itself midair. With a roots explode downward, leaves spiral up. And just like that, the starlight tree grows. Right there, 10 feet tall, shimmering with the quiet confidence of an eternal thing. The kitten from before curls at its base. You look up, and the stars are shifting again, only this time they form a familiar face. Bastet, grinning, and sipping from a cup that suspiciously resembles a wine goblet shaped like a paw. Didn't think I'd leave you completely, did you? She purrs. I wasn't sure, you say. You're kind of unpredictable. Thank you, she replies, blowing a kiss made of stardust. This party never really ends. It just changes venues. She winks. And sometimes the after party is even better. The stars swirl again. Behind Bastet, you glimpse other figures, Ra, Anubis, Thoth, Sekhmet, laughing, dancing, storytelling beneath a banner that reads, Lunar Reunion, God's Edition. You can't help but chuckle. You guys have themed events? Bastet shrugs. Why do you think humans invented Pinterest? Then she turns serious. Just for a moment. There's something about joy, she says. It feeds the divine, nourishes memory. Your world forgets too quickly. The moon almost faded because no one remembered to look up. You glance at the tree. It's why you brought me there. Exactly, she says. You're a story keeper, and story keepers are the best guests. She pauses, purring softly. Historians still argue whether Bastet was a nurturing goddess or a fierce warrior, she adds. But no one debates her love for music, celebration, and perfectly timed entrances. The kitten meows. Loudly. You glance down. It's now wearing a tiny gold collar with a crescent moon tag. Name, Pautum. Of course, you sit beneath the tree and realize this was the true purpose of the party, not just to honor the moon, but to plant the idea of remembrance, of looking up, of gathering joy in sacred ways. The tree rustles, leaves fall like notes in a forgotten melody. One lands in your hand. inscribed with a single hieroglyph. It means light, not in the electric sense, but in the sense of hope, wonder, the thing you carry when everything else feels heavy. You exhale, let it anchor you, let it root into your real, waking life. Because no matter where your dreams take you, no matter how wild the gods may party, you now hold a piece of their celebration, a seed of eternal remembering. And that changes everything. You blink. Once, twice. And when your eyes open again, you're no longer under the star tree, no longer standing in the dream garden turned party space. You're somewhere else entirely. Though, if we're being honest, at this point you're not even bothering to ask questions. Not when gods with cat heads throw themed lunar parties in your backyard. This time, you're floating. Not falling, not flying, just hovering midair like the world's most relaxed helium balloon. The stars have rearranged again, this time into a swirling dome above and below you. You're in the middle of the cosmos, but everything still feels soft, muffled, and warm. Ahead of you drifts a glowing silver raft. On it sits the moon herself. She's not how you expect her to look. Not a cold, distant orb. Not even a mysterious goddess in flowing robes. No, she's a radiant figure with moonlight skin, a calm face, and of course, glittering sunglasses perched on her nose. Because apparently lunar royalty still knows how to accessorize. You float closer. She doesn't speak, but she nods once. Her hands are extended toward you, and in them she holds something. A drum. Ancient. Covered in leather. Decorated with carved cats, blooming lotuses, and dancing figures. You're giving me an instrument? You ask, confused. She nods again, more solemnly this time. Then a ripple of sound hums through the air. You look down and realize the stars below are vibrating, responding to her rhythm. Her music is holding the universe together. I'm not really a drummer, you mutter. She smiles. You weren't really a time traveler either 2 nights ago. Fair point. You take the drum. It's surprisingly light. But you feel its weight, symbolically, maybe cosmically. And as your hands press against its skin, a gentle beat begins to form. Ba-dum, ba-dum. With each pulse, images flicker in the starfield around you, scenes from Bastet's party, Ra laughing with wine dripping from his sun disk, Thoth scribbling jokes on scrolls that catch fire mid-punchline, Sobek performing a crocodile-style breakdance, you, spinning under the starlight, hands in the air, forgetting the rules of gravity entirely. And then, just as suddenly, the beat fades. You're sitting back in your bed. The fan still hums overhead. Your window is cracked open, and moonlight slides through like liquid silver. But your hands? They're dusty, not with dirt, with sand. Moon sand. And there, on your pillow, sits the drum. Or at least a very convincing miniature replica, just small enough to fit on your shelf. Just real enough to remind you it wasn't a dream, was it? Historians still argue whether the moon was ever worshipped as an independent deity or always seen as an extension of Thoth or Khonsu. But one thing's never debated. The moon always shows up, even when we forget to look. Even when we're scrolling through late-night apps or trying to remember if we fed the cat. And speaking of cats, Pautum is curled up at your feet, snoring, wearing a tiny, smug smile and twitching his whiskers like someone who absolutely photobombed every cosmic selfie last night. You laugh. Softly, then sigh. The drum, the seed, the party, they'll all fade in the morning, won't they? Maybe, but you'll remember, because stories don't live in books alone. They live in feelings, in objects, in sudden wind gusts, and in soft sand tracked onto your bed sheets. They live in cats that show up uninvited, and in rhythms that echo long after the music stops. You reach for the little moon drum and give it one final tap. Just one. Badum. The stars outside your window seem to twinkle in response.